All right. It is 4 o'clock here on Saturday. A beautiful Saturday. College football going on right now. But that's something we don't really care about here on Unapologetic with Chet and Duffy. I am your host, Chet, and to my right is my counterpart, Duffy. Duffy, how are we doing today, buddy?
Chet, I'm doing pretty well today, man. I was actually watching some college football
Yeah.
today. Didn't place any bets yet, but
Yeah?
yeah, man, you should really tune in. I was watching the Ohio State Oregon game. It was coming down to the wire.
Yeah, I was looking
Really,
at that box score earlier. Let me check it out right now. Let's see where they're at. Right now,
35-28
yeah,
Bucs
the
win.
final.
Yeah,
That's honestly pretty interesting. That's a big upset right there in terms of the college world because you're talking number 12 Oregon taking down the number 3 Ohio State.
yeah.
That's pretty crazy right there in terms of college news. But keeping it grounded with football. So, starting off, we didn't get to talk before Thursday. The show will still continue on Wednesdays. Today, we just wanted to make up for lost time and talk about week 1 because that's something we always do. We always like to stay week to week here with the
For
NFL,
sure.
and that's something we're going to bring every single week to you guys, to the viewers at home, to give you some idea of what to expect and then also what to expect in your fantasy lineups. That's something we'll get to later. But starting off Thursday night, biggest opening game of the year. Cowboys head to Tampa to take on Tom Brady and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers managed to win this one by a field goal, 31-29. It was quite a matchup, and honestly, probably one of the best games I've seen in a while. But there was a lot left on that field by Dallas. Wouldn't you say so, Duffy?
Yeah, there was a lot left on the field by Dallas, and I think after that game, Dallas, looking at their team, what they're able to produce on the offensive side of the ball, I mean, over 500 yards of offense. Dak Prescott, 403 yards through the air, just coming up short. And they're really, I think, the favorites to win the NFC East. If we're looking at just talent on the team, I think they do have the most talented roster, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Maybe not defense. I think Washington has the best defense in the division.
Mm-hmm.
But going against the reigning champions and really giving them a fight for all 60 minutes, and really a game, and no one thought they would win that game, and sure they did lose, but it was in dramatic fashion. That's gonna be one of the best games of the year throughout the whole season, and Dallas is here to win it, man. I mean, I think there's gonna be possibly a 10-11 win team, and if they can just figure it out on both sides of the ball and keep doing what they're doing and play like they did on Thursday, week in and week out, I think they're going to be nice this season.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. And I mean, Dak Prescott throwing for 403 yards on the night, 3 touchdowns and 1 interception, was only sacked once, a rating of 101.4, higher than Tom Brady's, I might add. But he clearly looked like he did not miss a beat. He was just on the money. Whenever he was called upon, this man had an answer for it. And he did everything he could to keep them in this game. The X factor for Dallas year to year, and especially, we said this so many times last year, and it's going to be said again time and time again this year, that defense needs to figure something out as to how to make these stops, because Tom Brady and the Bucs, whenever they got the ball, Brady knew what he had to do, and he did it with little to no issue. That is something this Dallas Cowboys defense needs to pick up if they really don't want to skip a beat. Because like we know, championship teams comes down to not just your offense, your defense. That Dallas offense is high-powered, but there will be some days that they're going to go to sleep and they won't be around. I mean, we even saw that Ezekiel Elliott had himself a very underwhelming performance, 11 carries for 33 yards, averaging about 3 yards a carry. His longest running of the night, 13 yards. So, I mean, at the end of the day, running definitely wasn't the big game plan for either side. Leonard Fournette only had 9 carries for 32 yards. But for Dallas, there's going to be these games where Ezekiel Elliott's not going to be utilized as much because they have to throw. And then it's just there's a lot of question marks for this Dallas team. And especially for Greg Zuerlein, if he nailed all 5 of those field goals, Dallas would have left with a victory in Tampa that night. 3 for 5 on the night, missed 2.
One of them was like 60 yards, though.
Yeah, one of them was 60 yards. But dude, I was telling this to my buddies. I was like, dude, tell me not a few years ago, Greg the Leg on the LA Rams would have nailed that kick. Tell
He
me
would have.
not.
I mean, there would have been a higher chance, but yeah, the Dallas defense, like you were saying, Chet, they're gonna figure a lot of things out if they want to, be contentious throughout the season. It's a team that was last year historically one of the worst defenses ever that we've ever seen. I think them and the Lions were two of the three worst defenses ever in terms of yards allowed.
Mm-hmm.
Team that got 0 sacks on Tom Brady on Thursday night, couldn't generate the rush. That's how you're going to beat Tom Brady and the Bucs, is to bring pressure, and that's what the Cowboys couldn't do. Couple takeaways, though. They get 2 interceptions on the night, which really impressed me because picking off Tom Brady is tough, and for a secondary that was as bad as they were last year, did not expect that, but definitely going to have to clamp up on defense, bring the heat, bring the rush, because they do have good edge rushers. They still have DeMarcus Lawrence coming on the outside, and if they can just do that and pretty much just stop the run, and they're gonna be good.
And even that fumble that they caused at the 10-yard line against Chris Godwin, that was a
Yeah,
huge turning point in the
4
game.
takeaways on the
Yeah,
night, but they just
what's that?
couldn't stop him from driving down the field.
Yeah,
At the time.
yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of positives to this game for Dallas, and we'll get to Tampa in just a second. But for Dallas, this is big for them because it proves this defense can cause the turnovers, but they do lack in some areas, and that obviously is the pass rush. DeMarcus Lawrence, stud player, but you can't rely on just him. They need more help from those interior guys and even the other edge rushers there to really get some pressure on the quarterback, because at the end of the day, you need sacks too to help with those turnovers, and clearly the pressure did cause a few of those turnovers to happen.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, Dallas just needs to work on some things. I think we could see this defense be a little more talented come midseason. But the offense, my hat's off to them. They played an excellent game. And, I mean, to talk about defense, let's talk about Tampa for a moment, because Tampa, once again, they didn't even look like they missed a beat. Tom Brady still looking as good as ever, 32 for 50 on the night for 379, 4 touchdowns and 2 interceptions with a rating of 97. Solid numbers there. And then Rob Gronkowski with 2 touchdowns on the night, followed by Godwin with 1, and Antonio Brown having himself a huge night. 5 catches, 121 yards, and a touchdown.
Yeah, Antonio Brown's a guy I definitely want to talk about, because they were saying all this stuff in the offseason. AB's back. He's looking like his old self. And he really did. Coming out, 5 catches, $121, a touchdown. He had 3 catches on the first drive, I believe, for 73 yards. And Brady and him are going to build that trust throughout the year. This Bucs receiving core is still, probably the best in the entire league. I think the Bucs and the Cowboys are probably the top 2 receiving cores in the entire league. But so many weapons on this Tampa Bay team. You have Mike Evans, who had a pretty bad night, just 3 catches for 24 yards. Scotty Miller, too, who was pretty much shut down. I didn't even get a catch on the game. Looking at the other weapons, Chris Godwin, AB, and Gronk for my fantasy team, 90 yards and 2 touchdowns, coming in huge. Just getting everybody involved in this team, and that's how the Bucs are going to beat teams. They have so many different pieces. If a couple guys do bad, then other players are going to pick them up. And you can't, double cover 2 different guys on the field at once. And that's something that the Bucs have. They have multiple guys that you're going to have to give more attention to. It's going to leave somebody else open. And we saw Brady slice and dice all night on the Cowboys defense. Like you were saying, Chet, 32 completions on the night, just throwing dimes left and right. Game-winning drive to Chris Godwin. That was a dot, arguably a push-off, but it was still a dot by TB12. So this Bucs offense looking sharp as ever.
Absolutely. And I mean, even that defense, they just look completely solid right there. I mean, Devin White and Levante David leading the team that night in tackles. And they just were delivering some mean hits on that other side of the ball. They just looked like they were ready to play the whole time. I just think what it came down to was, once again, stopping Dak. It was very hard to do so. But in those key moments, they held them to a field goal at the end of that eventually set up Brady to go on that game-winning drive to win the game. So, I mean, the defense, it's doing its job just as it needed to. That's the championship defense, championship offense, back and ready to go. There's not really much you can say about the Bucs right now. They're on top of the world. They're on top of the NFL right now in terms of how good they are. I think this game really cemented that they're still going to be the team to beat in the NFC.
Absolutely. And I don't think anyone really has a chance at them quite yet. I mean, Cowboys did show a lot of their weaknesses, though.
Mm-hmm.
Secondary really isn't all that. And that's one thing that, was kind of shown against the Cowboys. 58 pass attempts from Prescott, 42 completions. Front seven is elite, though, so defense things piece it together. They can take advantage of these games where they're going to be playing mediocre teams and just keep up riding up the wins, and they'll be okay.
Absolutely. So that is a wrap there on that Thursday night game. Definitely a great way to kick off the season. We're going to head into a little bit of an injury update as we go into the week. So something to talk about is the Baltimore Ravens, who have really, really been struggling right now as they've had critical players go down. You lose J.K. Dobbins for the season. Now you lose Gus Edwards, and then you lose a very key piece on that defense, Marcus Peters, officially done for the year. And now this backfield, loaded up with players like Le'Veon Bell, Devontae Freeman, and I forget the other bum that they got who's a veteran. But these are guys who
I forget who it was, too.
Yeah, they were all like, these are like Devontae Freeman a few years ago was a running back that all teams had to prepare for. Now he's literally nothing but just another running back, basically.
Yeah.
A third stringer at best.
He's just a guy who's been in the league and is on a team.
And I remember a few years ago when that guy scored 3 touchdowns in one game. Remember that?
Yeah, he was like the number one fantasy running back for multiple weeks back in 2015.
He did have the cool-off period because he's not that as talented, I guess, as people may have thought. But it just comes with the age, I think. I think he kind of got beat up a little too hard.
Yeah, but these Ravens are pretty screwed.
Yes, without a doubt. I mean, it kind of puts a lot of question marks on that team now. Offensively, they still have some shaken up receivers out there, like Rondell Moore. Even Marquise Brown was dealing with something recently. There's a lot of question marks for Lamar going into this season because now it's been 2 years he's gone to the playoffs, and each time he's been removed pretty
quick,
pretty soundly. So it really comes down to it. Lamar Jackson is definitely one of the best quarterbacks in this league. I will not take that away from him. But this is a defining year for him, in my opinion.
Sure.
I think this is going to set a precedent for what we expect from the Baltimore Ravens going forward. And now it even brings the question mark, will this team win the division? Because now I think that all leads to the Cleveland Browns finally claiming the AFC North for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah. Browns certainly in position to take advantage of the opportunity. Ravens looking banged up. Steelers are still there, too. Can't forget about them. Their defense is still elite, but I totally agree, Chad. I think the Browns are now the clear-cut favorites to win the division. I think they arguably were even before this Raven injury. Bugs started taking over the entire team like a pandemic, but honestly, I mean, it's gonna be tough for the Ravens. And like you were saying, this is a big year for Lamar Jackson. I think it's the last year of his rookie deal, too, before he gets the payday. And like you were saying, 3 straight playoff exits, 2 one and dones in the playoffs. Last year got his first career playoff win, but got bounced pretty handily in the divisional round by the Bills. So this is a big year for him. This is the biggest test he's going to have in his career working with this roster. Receiving course looking way better than it was in recent years, but that running back help for a run-first offense. You lose 3 guys, not 1, not 2, but 3 guys to torn ACLs in the span of a month. It's devastating.
Yeah.
It really is.
And now that brings Tyson Williams to the floor for Baltimore as they're going to look to him to lead the backfield on Monday night. But Duffy, if I were you, if you were me, who would you pick out of the 3 running backs that are there? Tyson Williams, Le'Veon Bell, or Devontae Freeman? Which one are you picking up to take over that backfield at some point for the season?
I mean, Tyson Williams is the only one currently on the roster, so I guess him or the other 2 on the practice squad, I believe.
Freeman made practice squad. I know that, but obviously they have Le'Veon Bell too. I'm not sure if he's on active roster or practice.
Yeah. I don't know how Le'Veon Bell would do in that offense because he's more of a patient back, and receiving back too, and they don't really do a whole lot of stuff that he would be good with. So I think you try with this Tyson Williams dude because he is technically the highest on the depth chart right now. He is supposed to be up next, and mad people picking up in fantasy. I was trying to pick him up right when I saw the news of this Gus Edwards injury, and I was driving back from the U, dude, and that Kingston service was so bad. I couldn't load up his name. I was so pissed. And Will picked him up in both leagues. I was so mad. But
it's a tough break.
Should try with this dude, but either way, we all know how the Ravens work. Their run-first offense, they're going to be utilizing multiple backs as it is anyways. So, whoever plays better is going to deserve more reps. But initially, I think you're going to give it to this dude, Tyson Williams. Not on the screen. On the screen is Gus Edwards, but Tyson Williams. I think he's the one getting the bulk of the carries to begin the season.
Yeah. So obviously, a lot of question marks going over Baltimore. This obviously does not write them off, but it does pave way for other possibilities of who could win the division. It could make it a lot more interesting in the AFC North going forward this season. But what were you going to say?
I said it really could, yeah.
Yeah, it really could. So, keeping it grounded with injuries, another injury report that happened earlier this week. Austin Eckler dealing with some hamstring issues. That's a huge problem for a lot of people, considering Austin Eckler has been known in this league and in fantasy to be a very productive player in terms of catching the ball and running the ball. And according to his agent, as of right now, he hadn't practiced on Wednesday and Thursday. It was a precautionary issue, but we do know he was dealing with a hamstring injury last season that really brought his production down quite a bit. So, I mean, Duffy, what are your thoughts on this injury?
Austin Eckler has been a dude who has been injured, quite a few times in his career already. But I hope he's going to be all right. I don't know how severe his injury is. Is he supposed to play Sunday?
I think he's questionable.
Coach said he's optimistic about him playing Sunday. So
it's 50-50. It's going to be a game time.
Yeah, this is going to be huge for Austin Eckler owners in fantasy. A lot of people are spending that first-round pick on him this year. He was projected as high as 7th, I've seen, in many leagues. But that Chargers backfield is pretty good. They have Joshua Kelly still. They have other running backs. They have a pretty deep running back core. No one as good as Austin Eckler can do as many things as he can, catch the ball out of the backfield. But, if he can't play against Washington week 1, I think the Chargers still are in good position to win the game. It's going to really hurt their chances. Make them less diverse on offense, but I think they're going to have a good chance to win the game still.
Yeah, Chargers walking into Washington. It's going to be tough through the air, obviously, because you got a stout pass rush there and a pretty solid secondary over there in Washington. So it's going to probably come down to a lot of Justin Herbert airing the ball out. But for most fantasy folks out there who have Austin Eckler, it's going to be a game-time decision. So you definitely want to keep an eye on him. And Keenan Allen's also going to be a wild card this year because that was a guy who was very productive until the end of the year when he had that back issue.
Yeah. He was very productive. A lot of PPR points on this Charger offensive personnel. A lot of PPR points.
One last injury to take a look at. Saquon Barkley, still coming off that ACL injury, has been dealing with knee issues as of late, which is obviously something we'll see as it comes. But they do have him positioned to play in the opener right now after tearing that ACL week 2 of last season. It says he'll play Sunday, but it's going to be a limited role barring this setback. Duffy, what are your thoughts on his production for Sunday?
Another guy, big fantasy implications here looking at Saquon Barkley, a guy who last year only took 19 carries the entire season, only played the first game and a quarter for just 34 yards. This is another big year for Saquon Barkley, especially at the running back position. Chet, you still there?
Yeah.
Your face just went away, and it was like kind of.
I know, I did that on purpose. Don't worry about it.
I'm just making sure, man. But
all good. We're all good here.
Yeah. I think he's just going to ease back in the lineup. He's not going to get too many carries week 1, as you were saying. Was a risky pick from the get-go. If you went out and got Saquon Barkley early in drafts, but he's a guy who's going to be productive. It may not come week 1. It may not come week 2. He's going to come back slowly from that injury and not force anything he's going to need to. And they still have Devontae Booker, a seasoned, veteran at running back, a former Denver Bronco, on the Giants too. So and other guys who can take carries. I think Wayne Gallman maybe still be on the team. I'm not sure, but he's on the Falcons now. Never mind. But yeah.
Yep. So we'll see what happens with Saquon. Obviously, it was a very significant injury. ACLs are very tricky to come back from. I do expect him to show signs of that production come back, but obviously it's going to come with time because they can't just give him the ball like they used to, where it was for at least 20 to 30 carries, because look what happened. And I mean, look what happened when that O-line sucks. It got him hurt. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this team's got to do everything it can to really slowly work him back into the backfield. It's the only way that they're going to see production out of him going forward, especially for future seasons to come.
For sure.
Keeping it grounded, that ends with fantasy, but something to talk about right now. No T.Y. Hilton for the Indianapolis Colts, so there's not many options out there right now for those of you who are looking to scoop up the number one guy in Indy. If you had someone to pick up right now, Duffy, who would you take?
Just like any guy who might be a free agent right now? Or just so, like
any Colts wide receiver right now? Who's your first guy?
Oh, any Colts wide receiver? I guess Michael Pittman Jr.
Mm-hmm.
But he's been drafted in the majority of leagues. He's a guy last year who I think almost had like 800 yards receiving for the Colts in his rookie year. He had 503 yards, but most of them in the second half of the year. He's really exploded in those last 8 or 9 games, and he's going to be probably the receiver one by the end of the season. Who knows? Working with Carson Wentz. This is the guy who also did not want to give Carson Wentz his number 11 jersey. Just because he's that good, man. He's a beast. So
yeah.
Give me Michael Pittman Jr.
Absolutely. I'm going to have to agree with you right there. He showed signs last year that he's just an explosive wide receiver in terms of where he's ranked. He's good enough for what you're going to get. In terms of Indy, I don't know what it's going to really do in terms of their production, because obviously they need a pass catcher like T.Y. Hilton. He's not a top 10, 15 wide receiver like he used to be, but he's still a reliable figure out there that can lead that offense down the field and get some catches going into that end zone. So we will have yet to see what really happens. Another big question, I guess you could say, after Thursday night's game, does this really drop Mike Evans from the wide receiver 2 range and drop him to wide receiver 3?
Who goes above him, AB?
I would say AB and Chris Godwin as of right now. Those are the number one guys there. So, I
wouldn't say all that. I think that's an overreaction. It's been one game.
Mm-hmm.
This Mike Evans is still a dude who's had 7 straight 1,000-yard seasons. He's captain of this team. And I think he's still their best option if you're going for it on 4th down. Or if you need a long conversion, I think you throw the ball up to Mike Evans, not AB or Chris Godwin, just for size and physicality too. He's a big play guy. He's a red zone guy too. And, I don't really think you could put AB above him yet, just because AB, he had one really good game on Thursday night, but still, finding his way into that offense and his role. And Mike Evans has known his role for a long time, so Mike Evans is still the best receiver on that team in terms of just pure talent.
Yeah, I have to agree with that as well, because, once again, as you said, it's just one game. It's a little bit of an overreaction for people to kind of jump ship on Mike Evans' stock, because he's still COVID, of course. But, wear your masks, stay 6 feet apart, blah, 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 blah. Anyways, keeping it grounded with Mike Evans, the thing is it's one game, and this Bucs offense already has lots of weapons for Tom Brady to dispose the ball to. So, honestly, it could just be one of those offenses where Chris Godwin does great one week, Antonio Brown does great one week, Mike Evans does great one week. It's just one of those things where I think the Bucs offense might be a little tricky at times because you're not going to get the constant volume and numbers that you're expecting.
Yeah, it's my bad. They'll be taking their turns, to pay their rent.
Yeah, exactly. Here's here's an interesting question here. This is going to be a tough call for any Los Angeles Rams wide receivers, Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp. Who do you think out of those two Matt Stafford's going to have the strongest chemistry with come this season?
Out of Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp, give me Cooper Kupp, and just because they're both white.
That's it. That's your reasoning.
I'm just playing. Try to find my Matt Stafford pick. I know there's one in here, but here we go. Yeah, Matt Stafford going to the Rams. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. Both these guys are just really explosive dudes. Can make big plays downfield. I think Robert Woods is gonna be a guy who's gonna get more receptions. He's one of those guys who can throw a lot of screens to a lot of 10-yard out routes, a lot of stuff over the middle. Cooper Kupp's, he's a slant runner. He goes vertical a lot deep down the field to make the jump ball. I think they're going to be playing different roles on the team. I think you're going to be looking at Woods as a chain mover, really, and Woods and Kupp as more of a playmaker and red zone threat. And so I think in both ways, I think he's having a nice connection with both of them in different areas, just for what their roles are. So overall, I mean, I guess Kupp, because he'll probably have more touchdowns than Robert Woods, and his numbers will look better.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is kind of like an interesting one just because it's two pretty talented guys. I think Robert Woods has a lot of possession catching and a lot of talent to the point where they could be 3rd and 5 and he could catch the ball in tough traffic at the first down marker. I think he's just one of those guys who can get open and make those tough plays for you really quickly. And then Cooper Kupp, he can still do the same. But I think in terms of what we've seen from Matt Stafford throwing to Kenny Golladay and Calvin Johnson, I think he's just one of those guys who can also gain a lot of separation and just be wide open for Matt Stafford to drop a dime to him. So, I mean, there's a lot going into this season for him because we've seen him in Detroit, and people always, I'm telling you, they shit all over Matt Stafford. And I feel bad for him because I can't say I've watched all his tapes, but from the tape I've watched, he looks really good when he's actually airmailing it and actually getting the ball moving. Obviously, I think it just came down to it. He was in a franchise that really wasn't going to build much around him. They just didn't have the personnel. They would never give him the personnel, really. They never were in a position to give it to him. So I think now that he's in this position with all this talent, I think we'll get to see Matt Stafford in true form. I don't know what it will mean. Who knows? He could even come out and totally fucking suck. Think about that. He could totally suck too.
I thought about that. Like, what if he's just worse than Jared Goff was?
Then that's literally the worst trade this team has ever made, because teams were saying that the Rams won that trade completely, but you never know. This could end up being one of those things that maybe it was just a shitty trade.
Yeah, but I think he'll be good in LA.
I think so too. I'd like to hope so.
Really good defense. They have really good weapons. And I think he's just happy to be there, too. I don't think he was happy playing for the Lions the last few years he was there.
Yeah.
So change of scenery is nice for him. But he could suck. What if he just totally fucking sucks?
He could. He very well could. All right, last fantasy football question we're going to cover is, how involved do you think Julio Jones will be in week 1? And by the way, most of these questions were found by us on ESPN. They have some really good fantasy football questions that we decided to use today. All credit to them.
Shout out to ESPN. I actually picked Julio Jones and A.J. Brown in the league. I forgot that I picked A.J. Brown earlier in the draft, so I'm hoping he's nice. But at the end of the day, I think he's just Julio Jones. I think he's going to get his. He's going to get his yards. I think he's going to get his touchdowns. I think he's going to have more opportunities to score touchdowns in Tennessee than he did in Atlanta. Tennessee's they really like to throw the ball in the red zone. Since we're Tannehill really gets a lot of his stats up for red zone touchdown passes. And Julio Jones is going to be a good target for him. I don't think he's going to be. I think him and A.J. Brown are going to have similar numbers. I think A.J. might have slightly better numbers just because he might be getting the bulk of the targets. But at the end of the day, like I was just saying, this is Julio Jones. We're not going to doubt him. We're not going to say he's washed. I think he's going to be just fine in a new system. System that he's happy to play in, and he's in a really good offense that likes to air it out. And we saw with Corey Davis last year, who nearly had 1,000 yards receiving as the receiver 2 on the team. And if he can do that, then Julio Jones can easily get 1,300 in this offense. You never know.
It's going to be an interesting year for him because obviously you have the talented A.J. Brown, who has just really exploded year to year as he's come into this league. Really proved himself on his own last season. So, I mean, it kind of comes down to Ryan Tannehill. Will Ryan Tannehill really spread this ball out, or is he going to have a favorite? I mean, we have yet to see. I think we'll see a pretty high volume go to both receivers because, I mean, those are the two guys you got to go to. You got to pass to him. You traded for this guy. So, I mean, you might as well. I think we'll see a good debut out of him this season. I think it's going to be an exciting year to see Julio Jones on a team where he can actually finally potentially make a Super Bowl run or even a good playoff run. So I'm going to say yes. I would like to see that he has a pretty high.
They're contenders in the AFC.
Yeah. Especially in the North. Well, in the South. They're obviously, I think they're the clear-cut favorites right now.
Without a doubt, yeah.
All right. So now to look at a couple of the games come Sunday. I think one of a very interesting matchup at 1 p.m. Pittsburgh and Buffalo. That's going to be quite a game because you're talking about Big Ben trying to really kind of make one last push, really, because he's almost at his end, the end of his line.
Yeah.
And then you have the young Josh Allen coming with a very talented Buffalo Bills team that was defeated in the AFC Championship last season, looking to do the same, basically similar to what they did last season. And then a Pittsburgh defense that has been known to be one of the stout defenses in this league. I think this could be a really close game.
I think it's going to be a close game, too. I mean, I saw the spread that was Buffalo -6.5. I was like, I kind of like Pittsburgh +6.5. You know, Pittsburgh still has a really good defense. They have their offense coming back. And, you know, going on the road against the Bills, this is a team they lost to pretty bad towards the end of the season last year. I think it was by 11 points in Week 15. But fresh start for both these teams. You know, the Bills could come out looking rusty, so could the Steelers. But I think 6.5 is a lot of points. And I think people forget how good the Steelers are, you know, how well coached they are. I think they're going to be ready for this matchup. But I think the Bills win it narrowly. You know, Buffalo at home, it's tough to pick against them. And I'm going to say the Bills win this one 24-20.
Yeah, I like that pick. Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with that also just because, I mean, I just don't think Pittsburgh's going to be able to do enough to defeat this team. I think the odds are stacked against them a little bit. They do have a shot, but it's very slim. I just think this Bills team is too young and too talented to really have anything to be able to, you know, just stop them from winning that game for Buffalo.
Yeah.
You know what? I just remembered this. We might as well just do it on the fly. We forgot about our lock and upsets.
We did, huh?
Yeah. All right. So we were going to just do highlight key matchups, but you know what? Right off the bat, I'm going to do my lock for week 1. And my lock for week 1 as of right now, this is going to be tough because I'm doing this on the fly. Give me a second here, people. It's going to be... I'm going to take... My lock is Carolina over the Jets. We're going to see Sam Darnold come out and light some fire on these New York Jets because this is a revenge game for this man. And now he's set up in an offense with the old familiar Robbie Anderson, DJ Moore. You got Christian McCaffrey.
It's a revenge game.
It's a revenge game in Carolina against his former team.
A lock.
I'm calling a lock right now.
That's a bold lock. I'm saying the Jets have upset material for that game. You know, you could say the same thing about the Jets. You know, they know Sam Darnold better than anyone else. Like, what if he shits the bed? What if Sam Darnold really is that bad and just sucks on another team? Well, people have blamed the system for Sam Darnold, but you know, looking at him, he's really not that good of a quarterback. So, honestly, Chad, I'm going to play devil's advocate and say the Jets win this one in week 1.
Solid.
On the road.
I like.
Sucks.
Nah, man, I just think Sam Darnold will have a chip on his shoulder here, and he's going to actually come out and light up this game. I'm not going to say he passes for a lot, but I am going to say he does pass for over 200 yards, and he's going to throw 3 touchdowns in this one. 1 to DJ Moore, 1 to McCaffrey, 1 to Robbie Anderson, and then McCaffrey's going to rush one in.
I think it'll be a low scoring game. I don't really see all that shit happening. I think it's gonna be.
Well, I think Zach Wilson's going to keep it close. I'll tell you that.
I think it'll be somewhere around 20-13
Solid.
in favor of the Jets. No, probably not 13. I think they're gonna score more points. I would say 27-24 Jets.
I think you're just being a hater and not thinking about the
I'm being a hater.
here.
I'm being a hater, but I also have to be a hater.
All right, Duff. Let's hear your pick, your lock for this.
My lock of the week. I'm just gonna keep it pretty simple here, and I'm gonna say the 49ers over the Lions. And just because Jared Goff sucks against the 49ers, they pretty much beat them every time. The Niners beat the Rams almost every time they play them.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, I think they've won 4 in a row against the Rams. And Jared Goff first game on a new team in Detroit in Motown against Niners, whose defense is coming back as strong as ever. Give me them as my lock of the week on the road.
That's it. Yeah, I'm gonna. It's a tough one. Well, I shouldn't say that. I definitely will have to take San Francisco on this one. I just think Detroit. I mean, you could say,
Detroit could do it.
You could say it's in Detroit, is what I'm saying. Be like, oh, but they have home field. But it's like the Niners. They've got too talented of a defense.
With what fans?
All of those guys are coming back that last season that left that Niners defense basically in disarray.
Yeah.
That offense back to its old self. You still have George Kittle. You still have Jimmy Garoppolo, Raheem Mostert. You still got some of those solid guys who can get you that win. And I don't know if it's going to be a blow. I don't think it'll be a blowout, but I think it's going to be kind of one of those doozy of a games that will just be a little bit of a back and forth, but never go much higher than 25 points. I think we're probably going to see a final of 23-20 in this one, Niners.
Yeah, I think it'll be a little bit more of a wider gap, but yeah, I think 28-14. Take Niners -8.
I like it.
So that's a lot of points, but whatever.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
What's your upset of the week, Chet Lindbergh?
That's what I'm trying to figure out right now. It's kind of going to be.
I'll give you mine.
One.
My upset of the week, I'm going to tell you right now, Raiders on Monday night over the Baltimore Ravens. This Ravens team is in disarray. Their running back core, as we were talking about, is in it's in shiver. It's in shambles.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for. It's not looking good. I have to readjust a lot, throughout the first half of this game, second half of this game. And the Raiders, at home, they're packing Vegas's Allegiant Stadium for the first time ever post-COVID-19. This is going to be really exciting for the city of Vegas, and it's going to be the start of a new era in Las Vegas with fans to see, at least. I think it's going to be hype.
I think it. Yeah, no, I kind of agree. I think the Raiders have a lot to really bring to the table because last season we did see them upset the Chiefs a couple times. So
and the Saints too.
Yeah, so I mean, this team has shown that they do have potential to really bring something to the table. And
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think, like you said, Baltimore's in a little bit of a disarray, and they've got some doubts surrounding them. Could it affect their gameplay? Maybe, but I mean, it's kind of tough to tell. I mean, but I like the pick. It's bold. It's solid. I like it.
Thank you, brother. Now, what's your upset?
My upset this week is going to be I'm going to take the Colts over the Seahawks in this one. This was a tough one to really think about, but you know what? The Colts, they still got a stout defense. This is probably one of the best defenses in the NFL that we've seen in the past year and this year. Carson Wentz has been delivered that he is healthy. He will play week 1. I think we're not going to see him totally light up the field. Russell Wilson's going to have a pretty solid day, but I think he's going to feel a little more comfortable having that running back with him, Jonathan Taylor, and having some pieces of that pass game that made them so successful last year.
Yeah.
And I think that defense is really going to bring Russell Wilson back a little bit from what we saw last year and really slow him down offensively. And that Seahawks defense, I mean, they were one of the worst defenses last year and really made no changes this offseason to what they had besides somehow keeping Russell Wilson in Seattle despite all the talks of him getting traded.
Yeah.
I think
I like that pick though.
Yeah, I think the Colts will take this one in a close game. It's going to be a medium tier scoring game. I'm probably going to say a final score of 28-26.
Yeah, and this was a game in which I thought the Seahawks would take when the word of Carson Wentz getting injured first came out, probably a few weeks ago. But he's back and healthy. He's gonna be ready for Sunday, Week 1. And I do like the Colts too in this game. And I think the X factor for this matchup is just that Colts D line against the Seahawks offensive line, and how much of a mismatch it is on paper. I think the Colts are going to shut down the Seahawks run game. They're going to see a lot of passing from Russell Wilson. So start all your Seahawks receivers, guys, that are on your team. So I think they're going to have to air it out. I think that this will kind of be a shootout to a degree because I think the Seahawks are going to score a lot of points. I got the Colts winning at 35-31. And I know it's a lot of points to ask from Carson Wentz, who's never even beaten the Seahawks. That's another stat that was kind of in my head. But, I just really don't like, that the front seven versus the Colts, the Seahawks O-line versus that Colts front seven.
Yeah.
So.
It's just going to come down to the wire, really. I think it's going to be one of those games where we're going to see that the final score comes out and you're going to be like, holy shit. Like, wow, that must have been a game to watch. Because obviously we're not going to be able to watch it for the most part, I'd imagine, just because of national broadcast. But we'll see. Maybe they'll air it on Fox or
they might put it on Fox because that's
Fox or CBS.
Yeah, no, it'll be on Fox. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But all right, that's a wrap for this week's show. That's Chet and Duffy's locks and picks for the week. This will be a reoccurring theme here on this show where we'll do our locks and picks for every single week. And we're going to change it up every single time with new teams, new matchups. And at the end of the year, we're going to see who bested the other. So far, is it dead even between you and I, or did I win again last year?
I don't even remember, dude.
Yeah, that was just one of those things.
We'll have to rewatch the tapes.
Yep. Honestly. We'll probably never know, to be honest. But
probably not.
But exciting week 1 starting tomorrow. All the Sunday games. I can't wait to sit down all day and just watch some football. It's been something I've been waiting for, man. But
it's exciting.
So everyone, enjoy the rest of the weekend and enjoy Sunday football and Monday night football. We'll be back in exactly Monday, Tuesday,
4
Wednesday.
days.
Yeah, in 4 days, you'll see us again at 7 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday night. This is Chet and Duffy signing off here. And most of all, go Pats this Sunday. Mac Jones for the win, baby.
Go Pats, baby. Peace.